although it's hard to tell because there's never any variation in the market anymore. It just sort of goes up slightly or is flat. There's no such thing as down. But isn't that fun, right? Makes the market interesting. All right, video good, everything's good. Hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas. Let's see if anything exciting. The dollar is super way down. This is always look at the dollar to see if the dollar's down, then the market would be repriced higher by nature. And when the dollar's down 0.5 point and the market is only up or flat, that means that the market would be weaker, except that the dollar is weaker, and it makes everything more, it makes these prices higher. You need more dollars to buy this much stock. That's how it works. So you always look at that and see, and that goes for oil too. So oil would have dropped more, gasoline would have dropped more. Oil is holding everything up right. I mean, the dollar is holding everything up right now. Took a huge sell-off today, starting at 9 a.m. when the bell rang. And as I mentioned last week, it is easier to manipulate the dollar than it is to manipulate the market. The dollar is very, very thinly traded compared to the market. It doesn't take a lot of buying and selling to get it to force it to go lower. So, because obviously everybody's got dollars, they just dump them and exchange them for other things, you know, euros or whatever, and they force the dollar down into a lower band. That's all. Especially light, thin holiday trading is the easiest thing in the world to manipulate. But we don't care about any of that, do we? All right, so let's talk about what we do care about. So today we discussed, that was last week. All right. Because, you know, it's very slow right now. There's not much going on in the market. There's no reason to, the easiest thing to do is to sort of do some, you know, year-end cleanup sort of business. So one of the year-end cleanup businesses we have is going over our watch list. But here, let's double check to see if anything actually happened. Apple can restart watch sales as U.S. Corp pauses ban. Well, that was going to happen anyway. New York Times sees Microsoft OpenAI. This is a big deal. If OpenAI starts losing these lawsuits, then what's the premise for the whole thing? What's all their training data going to be? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this stuff. How can spending be up when people feel down? That's something we've been covering lately, talking about the misery index, and you know, it just doesn't feel, you know, the markets look good, but it doesn't feel good for the people who are in it, because the reality is they can't afford what they used to be able to afford. And boy, I talk to a lot of restaurants that are seriously struggling too. You know, restaurants particularly, they're being eaten alive. It's like you don't realize it. They just sort of barely get by. And the thing about restaurants is the restaurant people who own it, generally in small restaurants, they're family businesses usually, and that means that you see like the owner's always there and always working, whatever. He's working because he can't afford to hire any people. So the business still exists, but there's a weird variable to a restaurant. Like let's say a restaurant usually takes in about $1 million, okay? And the food cost of $1 million restaurant is maybe $400,000, and then there's a rent of the $1 million restaurant. And let's say that's going to be, I mean, $1 million isn't much. It's only 3,000 nights, $1 million, not a huge restaurant. So the 3,000, right? 3,000 times 300. Yeah. So, you know, you think the food cost is going to be 400,000, and the staffing, you know, the staffing cost is going to be another. This rent also, and let's say a restaurant making 3,000 a month is going to cost, let's say they rent is 3,000 a month. So that wouldn't be much. There's only let's say $50,000 for the year in rent. Then they got utilities and other expenses, say 100, so now they're up to 500,000. Then they got the staff, and let's say that's a couple 100,000. And maybe they make a couple 100,000. The owners as a family make a couple 100,000. The husband works, and the wife works, and the kids work, or whatever. But you know, that's fine. It's a nice living when it's a nice living. But what happens when things are tough and they're not making the money. Well, then everybody's still working, the owners are still working, but maybe they don't have as much staff. They cut back a little bit, they cut back on their food costs a little bit, and they're slowly but surely drawing down their savings to keep the restaurant open, hoping it's going to come back. But then it never does come back. Eventually, they start shutting down, or the landlords try to raise the rent on them, or whatever. It gets hard. It does. And there's a lot of small businesses, but especially restaurants, that will take a beating for a few years before they really start falling apart. They don't immediately shut down. Even if they're chains, it's the same kind of logic. It's like, if you have a particular store that's not making money, you might do a few things, play with a few things, whatever, but they'll try to keep it going rather than shut it down. So it's a pain in the ass to shut the location down, take a loss, and try to open it somewhere else. That costs money too. So, a lot of people are hurting, a lot of businesses are hurting, and it's the families that take a hit that will drain out their savings. And that's why you have to get concerned. You see these savings rate there, those are savings rates for the whole country. Some people have $1 million in savings for their retirement. Their restaurant goes bad for a few years and they may eat into the savings 100,000, 200,000 a year for 4 or 5 years before they can't anymore. And that's a big problem in the restaurant business. People will tend to run a restaurant into the ground. Like they just keep cutting costs and cutting costs and cutting people and cutting staff until you just, if the owner of the restaurant is sitting there in an empty business and he can't even afford to fix it anymore because he spent all his money. It's not just restaurants, it's a lot of retail businesses, a lot of family-owned businesses. They get squeezed out like that. Anyway, so that's why people are not necessarily happy, even though the economy seems to go bad, because what's happening is it's more of a concentration of wealth. In other words, the money is going more towards the services, the high-end national services and national retailers like Home Depot, people like that, while the local hardware stores go bankrupt. Walmart just destroying every single local business. Walmart goes into town, the entire town shuts down except for the Walmart. How is that good? So meanwhile, the market, very happy, back to 4,800 on the S&P. We were there 2 years ago, and we're there again now. So yippee, we're back to where we were 2 years ago. Very extended on the RSI, very extended on the MACD, but meanwhile, I pointed this out like 2 weeks ago, and we're in the same very extended place we were 2 weeks ago. So not a big change. We're not getting overextended fast or anything like that, but it's very rare that you're going to be above this line for very long. The watch list that we have now, it wasn't from last year. Yeah, I know when it started. It started around here. It started around the fall of last year. It's a little more than a year old, our watch list. I would say, let's say October. So we started watching stocks, things got lower, we picked up some. But this is how our buying process goes. We find stocks that match a premise. And our premise has been since last year, since last fall, so for over a year, our premise has been to look for stocks that have a good PE ratio, which is always something you want to look for. We wanted to find stocks that had a high employee to earnings ratio or earnings per employee ratio. So in other words, a stock with a high employee to earnings ratio is going to be less affected by having to raise wages, right? So in other words, Apple makes like $1 million+ per employee. Each employee generates $1 million of income for Apple. So if Apple has to raise those employees' salaries by 20%, let's say those employees make $100,000, they have to give them all $20,000 more. It's not going to kill Apple because they're making $1 million per employee. It doesn't matter that they have to give them a big raise. Whereas Walmart, who makes $2,000 per employee or something like that, or $4,000 per employee, if they have to give their employees 10% raises is $2,000. It would be more probably, but if they even have to give a 10% raise to their employees, it would cut out half of their profits. So, Walmart on the other end of the extreme is a company that makes money by exploiting its workers. They make money by paying their workers as little as possible. That's their profit margin. Apple makes their money by selling in technology that their employees create, and once it's created, it goes out there and can be replicated. And they're not counting obviously the millions of little children in Asia that make their product. That's a different company that takes the brunt of that. So for Apple's sake, though, they're just quote creating the technology, they outsource the manufacturing, and that's how they make all their money. So there aren't many companies that get to do what Apple does, put it that way. But there are plenty of companies that have a much higher earnings per employee ratio than Walmart does. So that was key. And then lack of debt. The other major criteria we're using, lack of debt. We don't want to see debt because it's not as bad now, but last year, the year before, companies had not really projected their debt forward properly as increasing versus the current interest rates at the time were lower and were going up. Now the Fed has done all their raising and it's pretty much baked into everybody's earnings. So when we see the interest ratio, the debt interest ratios that are being paid by companies, we can say they're pretty honest and they're probably not going much higher. So there won't be any major surprises. So we're not as scared about debt now as we were a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, we thought debt could be a big problem, and it has been for a lot of companies. But even so, the market still goes up and up and up. So Apple has been in the portfolio. They don't have any debt. They have cash, in fact. So Apple has cash, no debt. Great employee earnings ratio. Not the best PE ratio. That's the problem right now. Is they're trading almost 30 times their earnings. They're trading at $3 trillion. And although there's clearly a path for them to go much higher, up to another $100 over the course of the next 6 years, it's still a matter of it's going to be a slower path. You're not going to see this again. This is crazy. That's not going to happen again. So I wrote an article about how they can get to 5 trillion. Here's Allstate Insurance Company. Now, in this case, interest is in their favor because they're forced to keep their money in bonds. So a lot of their money is in notes and bonds. So when the bonds and notes pay more money, they make more money. And we did grab them. We put them in one of our portfolios to the LTP. Here's ADP. ADP is a payroll company. More people working, more demand for payroll. They're a good candidate. I said 260 is 20x, and that's a good price if we're not having a recession. They're probably good for the butterfly portfolio. We should really consider them for that. ARCC kind of slowly and steadily has been, heading back up. And we started at 18 watching them, they're now at 20. So we started down here, paying attention to these guys. They're already at 20, so they're up 10%. And they're into a more or less fair value range, but still there's nothing wrong with trading them. Boeing finally started moving their planes again. They're going to be good. They could actually go to the butterfly portfolio at this point because Boeing is going to be here or higher for sure. It's like unless something terrible happens again, that's the problem. Terrible things do happen. You have to keep that in mind if you're investing in Boeing. Terrible things do happen. Planes crash. There could be defects or so on and so forth. And it's not like, air regulations are way worse than auto regulations. So if there's any teeny tiny thing wrong, the FAA is like, forget it, ground them. They don't care what's going on. They don't want a single person dying because they didn't take action. And it's not like an auto manufacturer where you have to show where like they're waiting to see like some real evidence of death before they stop something. Planes are not like that. They have very low tolerance, but also because, you know, several hundred people die at a time, so it can pile up on you very quickly. But Boeing's a good one. Best Buy was so good, we actually added it to the short-term and long-term portfolio. So we really like Best Buy. We'll see how the season went, but it should have gone well for them. Barclays became our favorite bank. We put it in the income portfolio. BurgerFi, a little burger chain. I need to look into them further. We did put them in our portfolios, and I think I want to double down on them. But they've had no luck. You know, we came in at 165. We thought we were getting a good deal, and now they're 80. Now they're 85. I mean, now they're crazy. They weren't supposed to make a profit, but they're not like off schedule or anything. It's very strange how badly they're being treated. BioNTech is, you know, they're the mRNA people. Work with Pfizer. They got the same problems as Pfizer, but you know, it's a $24 billion company with $13 billion in cash. And when they IPO'd, let me see if I can find that. Yeah, they only have a 3-year history. So they IPO'd right about where they are now, like at $100 or $80 or whatever. So they IPO'd here. So this market cap was their original market cap, but when they IPO'd, they didn't have this kind of money. Here's the money. Forget that one. $13.8 billion. That's the money. They made $1 billion this year. They're not losing money, they're making money. So they're not losing money. Here they were losing money when they IPO'd. Not much, but a little. Okay. They made their money not by they raised money going public, right? So they go public, and here's their cash. And they had $171 million, they had $400 million. Eventually they had $1 billion. No, sorry, the billion came from actual, the billion was like getting paid by Pfizer for development and so on and so forth. But so they raised about $400 million at a $25 billion valuation back in the day, right? But then in the course of time from when they IPO'd until here, Pfizer gave them money to start doing development, and within a year they had developed a COVID vaccine, which brought in $19 billion, and half of that was profit. And the next year, another $17 billion, and half of that was profit. And the company didn't need to spend a lot of money to do this. So here's a company that has the ability to cure massive diseases, create vaccines that safely and effectively and efficiently kill massive diseases. There's a whole world out there that they could apply this to, and they're currently developing cancer and stuff, but now they've got 10 times more money now to develop things with than they had when they IPO'd. Not 10, like 20 times more money than they had when they IPO'd. So it's the same valuation as they IPO'd. They've got no debt. They're actually still making money. They're profitable, and they've got billions and billions of dollars for R&D. What's wrong with this? Why would you not want to buy that? It's better than buying a biotech startup that has no money and is 1,000,000 times earnings. It's only 33 times earnings. So that's my logic on them. They're in the income portfolio only, but if they go back down again, I'd certainly add them to more portfolios, like the long-term portfolio at least. BXMT got really cheap, and we put them in the income portfolio. That's a Blackstone mortgage. That's, again, people, they have no respect. People were just, you know, people were just freaking out because they're a mortgage trust and the rates were going up, and everybody acts like that's the end of it for them, but it doesn't work like that. Citibank was a good bank, and it's shooting back up. I made a note last time. I said it's a pretty good bank, price like they're going bankrupt. You know, it was down here when we last looked at it, and that was crazy. You know, we chose Barclays over Citi, and but they both took off. Cheesecake Factory, I've been saying all year would take off eventually. Now it's coming back up a bit. We never got around to adding them, but we still could. They're a solid performer down here, so you know they might be good for the butterfly portfolio down here. You not only don't you have to add every stock that you like, but you also can't. I mean, there's a limit to how much you can put in your portfolios. Chimera, along with NLY, we like them a lot. They're both in the income portfolio. Cleveland Cliffs. If Cleveland Cliffs hadn't tried to buy U.S. Steel, we would have put them in our portfolio, but they tried to buy U.S. Steel, and that just made me nervous that they were spending too much money and biting off more than they can chew and so on and so forth. So we ended up not buying them when they were down here at 15, which was a shame because obviously they're up to 20 already. You know, they're great. And you know why they're up to 20? Because now they're not buying U.S. Steel, so they went flying back up. Crocs was, I thought, an easy play. They went back to 80 and we picked them up for the long-term portfolio. CRISPR, another one. They didn't cure anything yet, but the technology is improving and improving and improving. It's not solely theirs. The technology is called CRISPR, but they don't own it. Like it's not patented to them or anything like that. But they're a leader in that technology, and that technology is gene editing. It's taking the genes and actually changing them, splicing them, and creating more favorable outcomes for your genes. Freaking amazing. So we did not own them, but they've obviously stabilized. And since we can do this, I regret not buying them for 40. So we sell the $50 puts for 12, and now we bought them for 38. So, that's the great thing about selling puts, right? I wish I had bought them when they were 40. And now it's at 64. I can still buy them for 38 by selling the $50 puts. So by itself, that's effectively a free trade. I don't care. In the long-term portfolio, if I end up having 500 shares of CRISPR for $38, I don't consider that in any way a penalty or something bad that's going to happen to me. It's like, oh, I wish I would have bought CRISPR. Oh, I can buy it for 38. I can promise to buy it for 38, even though it's at 64. You can't fear short puts. They're like your best friend. So effectively, that play is free. There's in a portfolio margin account, there's a small margin requirement, but it's effectively free. I'm just making a promise that if they get to 38, I'll buy them. Or if they go below 50, I'll buy them for net 38, basically. So I promise to buy. It's again, it goes back to I always talk about Levi's, because you know what a Levi's are worth, right? Levi's are worth $50 for jeans, right? They're always on sale for 40. You never would really pay 50. You know they charge 50, but you also know they're constantly on sale for 40. All you got to do is be patient and keep walking by the store, and eventually you'll get them for 40. But if you see them for 35, you buy them if you need jeans. Why do you buy them? Because you know 35 is a great price, because you know that usually they're 50. You can a lot of times get them for 40, but you never see them for 35. So why are they on sale for 35? You don't care. Right? You don't say, why are they 35? Maybe people don't like jeans anymore. Why are they 35? Maybe there's a problem with all the Levi's. Why? Maybe cotton is suddenly an allergic compound, or I don't know what stupidity there would be that would make you say, I don't want to buy jeans for $35. They're $35. They're jeans. You like jeans. You wear jeans. You use them. You'll get utility out of them. So there's a faulty decision-making process people have when they're buying stocks. That's what this watch list is for, though. It's an exercise that keeps you focused on what the value of something is, so that when it goes on sale, you are inclined to buy it. Because you should know the value of something. It doesn't, and it's not derived from the chart. When the chart, and it never was 35, by the way, it was only 40. But the point is, when it hits 40, here's 40, here's 40, here's 40, here's 40. When it does hit 40, those are the times your Levi's are on sale. If it ever hits 35, you don't say, oh my God, what's wrong with this stock? You say, oh, I want to buy it. I know I want to buy it. It's been on my watch list. All you have to do is go back recently and say, is there any particularly strong reason this stock should no longer be worth 40 bucks? And if I don't see it, I go, oh, I'll buy it. That's what this exercise is for. It's to train you. And that's how we build a stock very often in our portfolios. We will see a stock go down to 40. We'll see that we can sell the $50 puts for 12, or if we could have sold the $40 puts for 12 when it was down here. And we say, oh, well, for 28, I definitely want them, so therefore I'll do that. Now because the stock graduates from the watch list to one of our portfolios, but it only has short puts. But then if it's still down around there and we still like it, and the reasons that people were selling it off, then, then if we see this kind of flattening motion and people aren't selling it off anymore, then I say, oh, we already have the short puts. Now it's time to add a long call spread. So didn't really need to be told that here. So I'm saying the trigger here was that we could sell the $50 puts for 12 because that made it worth it, because we're netting in for 38. So here's $6,000. Now we're buying a 15. Notice that we're buying 15 of these and selling 12. So we're leaving 3 open long calls. And we're buying the 50-80 spread. So we're at 64. We're buying the 50-80 spread. That's our goal for 2 years from now. And we're selling 5 additional short-term $70 calls for March. And that's going to generate $3,000. Now, March is, let's say March is 3 full months. It's not, but let's say it is. So we sell 3 months out of, or 1 quarter out of 8 quarters we have to sell. We sell it for $3,000. That means we can generate $21,000 more dollars selling the next 7 quarters. And we're only paying $14,000 for the spread. So what do I like about the spread? Well, the spread is going to be net free. We're going to have a net $7,000 credit if we keep selling short calls. And that net $7,000 credit means we still are netting into the stock for $38 or less. So our worst case scenario is only 500 shares, $38 or less. We're going to have the spread's going to pay for itself when we keep selling short calls. And we're going to be happy little campers. So therefore, no reason not to make the play. And you see the power of having a watch list. We have 60-something positions on the watch list, and we see one get to this point. We look at the options, we look at where it is, and we say, oh, well, there's no reason not to own this. It's not a hard decision process because we've been paying attention and we've been watching it for a whole year. We know it's on sale. We know we like it. Now, Disney, on the other hand, we do have them in the LTP, but we haven't really jumped all over it because they keep putting out movies that miss. Their sequels are crapping out. The Marvel movies and stuff like that, they're not doing a good job. So, and they close the Star Wars thing. They take a big hit on the Star Wars park. Well, the park is still there, but not the hotel. That was a big investment. And what does that then say about the franchise and so on and so forth? It's like they've, clearly they've been miscalculating things. And I thought they were out of the woods, but, well, they still could be out of the woods. And this is important to understand. The movies that have been flopping are movies that were initiated before Iger came back. The movies take years. So, the bad script and the poor whatever they were doing, and the whole thing didn't come together right. That's all caused by poor decisions made before Iger had a chance to get back in there. Not that we know for sure that he can fix everything, but you have to understand though that these are very long tail production things, that decisions were made years and years ago that can't really be stopped. He can't come in there and pull the plug on productions. So there's a lot of problems with the way they're set up, and it has to be reorganized. And they're not a hit machine. They were a hit machine. Now they're not a hit machine. And to get them back to being a hit machine is going to take years. It's tough. It's tricky with Disney because when you think about it, I mean, they've got their legacy characters, right, and their legacy stuff, but you can't just keep remaking the same crap constantly. You got to do some new stuff, but whenever you do the new stuff, you're really rolling the dice on whether it's going to be good or not. But even the legacy stuff is a roll of dice. Like, the people don't like the Little Mermaid's Black, this and that, whatever rubbish makes a movie good or bad. Aquaman just flopped. That wasn't Disney, that was DC. Who knows what's going to work and what's not going to work? It's really crazy. So anyway, so we haven't gone gung ho with Disney because they haven't proven they're worth going gung ho over. Dick's Sporting Goods. This is my same. I've had this logic with the same logic of Crocs, the same logic as Foot Locker. It's people are going to buy clothes and sports clothes. It's just basic stuff. It's not, the fact that they're sports clothes doesn't make it high end. They charge a bit more than regular clothes, but that's what people want to wear, especially, guys are very, very much tend to wear sportswear rather than regular stuff. So, why not? Unless the economy is really crashing. So we added them. Did we add them? I thought we had them. No, we didn't. We never added them. Silly us. Oh well. So it took off like really fast, and I guess we missed it. Ford, we did add when they got low, because for me, that's an automatic buy. Ford down here, we added them to the LTP. Future Fuel, another great stock, I think, and we added them to the LTP. Foot Locker, like I said, we believe we believe people need clothes. Good economy or bad, people need to buy something. My voice is still not good. Gilead, a solid manufacturer. We put them in the LTP. GLW was in the runner-up for the stock of the year. We put them in the LTP as well. They just got cheap, and this is the thing. We watch them. We had them on the watch list. They got cheap. Then they jumped up, but then they got cheap again. And the next, so we added them here on the watch list when we started the watch list. They took off on us. We didn't get a chance to add them. They fell, but not as far as when we wanted to watch them. They went up again, and we said, oh well. And then they finally came down, and they came below where we liked them, which is the whole point of the watch list. Is like, these are the things we want if they go on sale. So we just watch them, and if we see them on sale, we say, oh, why is it on sale? Is it on sale for a good reason or a dumb reason? If it's on sale for a dumb reason, we buy it. It's not complicated. GNRC, Generator Company. I said the weather warmed up. There's not too many snow days, but the power infrastructure is unreliable, especially at a place like Texas where their grid is messed up. I still like these guys, but we haven't pulled the trigger yet. I'm waiting for a good reason to buy them, like a better catalyst. I'd like to see them partner with solar companies or something like that, and just become more of a home generator, not necessarily a blackout kind of situation, but for like a backup to a solar system. Still great company though. Gold, to me, this is super obvious. We picked these guys up. I think they're another portfolio besides the LTP, like the Money Talk or something. Just, fairly, it was tremendously underpriced when we jumped in at 16. Now it's still underpriced though. GoPro with the cameras, we never added them back in. We had them in our old portfolios. We haven't added them back. Again, it's the lack of catalyst. I don't have a good reason to do it, but I really do think they're valued down here. I'd like to see them get they shifted towards more high-end cameras, like for professional photography and stuff like that. It's a good shift, I think, but they're just not getting an effective, real good traction. They're not selling what they should have been selling, and they kind of they gave up on the high-end market, not the high-end market, I'm sorry, on the consumer market. They kind of gave up on it, or they haven't pushed it like they should have. And so they're in the sort of transitioning period, and they're just not executing. Bottom line, they're not really executing. I still like them long term. Honeywell, something we should put in the butterfly portfolios. It's basically they're going to be steady around $200. And they'll be fun to sell puts and calls against. Now, IMAX, and this happens to IMAX all the time, IMAX is suffering from Disney's incompetence and Warner Brothers incompetence because the big superhero movies that they rely on are not getting made. Also, here's another thing that's developing as more of a macro for them. because there were so many superhero blockbuster movies, there was no point in other people making blockbuster movies that were non-superhero because nobody cared. So other than a franchising Mission Impossible kind of thing or something like that, nobody's making the next great space battle thing or coming up with new hero, coming up with new type of heroes that aren't Warner Brothers or DC's franchises. They're just not getting greenlit. So therefore, there's less fodder for IMAX. I'll show you what I mean. IMAX 2024 movie schedule. So, when Aquaman bombs, it's bad for IMAX because that's why you go to IMAX. Reddit, IMAX? No. IMAX, Civil War. Upcoming movies 2024. What IMAX movies are coming out? Wonka. These are not really new and coming soon. Go away, Fandango. IMAX movies. Okay, so these are all Wonka. These are all IMAXs. So Wonka, The Color Purple, Aquaman, Already a Bust. I don't know what that is. Migration. A Boy and the Heron. But you can see from the artwork here, it's not that good. Mean Girls is not an IMAX really kind of movie. They're hurting, right? The content, they're hurting for content. Poor Things. Boy, it used to be a lot easier to get an IMAX schedule too. People used to really care about this stuff. List of IMAX films. Here we go. Oh, this is all of them. Freaking Wikipedia. What? These aren't even upcoming. This is so annoying. Godzilla and Kong again? They just did that. Ay. Okay, here you go. So Australia, Butterfly Kingdom. That's one of those, planetarium movies. Cities of the Future. Don't know what that is. Deep Rising. Don't know what that is. Molly's Pet. This is bad. Seriously? It seems to be a list of the planetarium type movies. I don't think it's got anything to do with the big screen stuff. Well, this is scary, right? So, oh, here you go. 2024, Madam Web. Okay, that one I think will be cool. Craven the Hunter is a Spider-Man villain. Elio, don't know what that is. Dune, I imagine that'll do okay. Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Mickey. Oh, here you go. See, this is what you want to find out. A Quiet Place again? Don't know what Mickey 17 is. Godzilla versus King Kong was not very disappointing last time. Anyway, so you got to look ahead and say, well, do they have a reasonable schedule? Are they going to have their blockbusters? Are there going to be billion-dollar movies where IMAX will sell a bunch of tickets? But anyway, to me, long-term, it's a good premise for stock. They do make money. They do sell tickets. And if we look at recaps. So, you can look over the long term and say, well, they don't generally go down much lower than this. They did back here. This was 2020. They crashed half of where they are now. So they could go lower, but you've got to say, I want to set up a position. They're making their PE back here 17.7. In 2020, they were only doing 137 million. Now they're doing $385 million. I mean, this was COVID. I mean, this is when theaters were closed. But can they close again? Yes, they can. They could completely shut down again. So don't forget that is a possibility. And so you never want to invest too much in it. You want to be able to double down. If they come back down to something like this, you want to say, okay, we'll double down. Back here, we didn't load up on IMAX because we didn't have any idea how long it would last or if they would survive. But they did survive. It didn't, people did come back to the theater. It didn't kill movies forever. Their debt wasn't that terrible. It was not good. They racked up quite a bit of debt, but they worked it off. And well, I'm sorry, no, they had cash. They had cash. They used it up, and now they're bit in debt. That's what their story is. But the debt's manageable. The box office is back to where it was pre-COVID, and that means that we should expect to see $50 million a year plus in profits. And if we can buy the whole company for $800 million, that seems worthwhile. So at this level, I like to start buying, but it's small, even for the LTP. That's a small position for the LTP because we're leaving ourselves plenty of room in case they go lower. International paper, we added already. IVZ, we did not add. They popped back up too fast. Jack in the Box, I love. They're pushing back to the East Coast. They haven't been in the East Coast since they poisoned a lot of people back when I was a kid. They never came back, but now they're finally moving back towards the East Coast, so that's good. It's good stuff. So, had we caught them at 60 when they were down there, I would have jumped on it. But right now, I'm just watching, seeing how it goes. But I got no problem buying them down here. Jets, we figured would pop. The airline travel's been very strong recently. Nordstrom's, rich people do go shopping. Jackson is always one we buy when it's cheap, and they took off on us. Kellogg, people eat cereal, that's a fact. KHC, people use ketchup. Coca-Cola, people drink Coke. These are facts of life stocks. That's why we like them. Lebu's a biotech ETF. It was really unbelievably challenged down here. I don't know what number that was. It was like 60 or something crazy though. It was very low in the fall. We didn't buy it. We bought BNTX and another one instead. So we bought the leaders of the biotech rather than buying the entire basket. But this is a very attractive price, or it was a very attractive price down here. Levi's, typically the Levi example of Levi's is when it's cheap, you buy it. Last time I said below 10x is just silly. We added to the butterfly portfolio. Lovesac makes furniture. People buy furniture. Las Vegas Sands, I said I'd rather do MGN, and that turns out to be right away. Oh, MDT we added, I think. I thought we added them. Yeah, we have them in the LTP. So we put them in the long-term portfolio, and now they're only back to where we added them. So you're not missing anything if you want to jump in. Here's MGM. So like I said, I'd rather buy MGM. Here's what happened in Las Vegas since then, and here's what happened to MGM. They also had a dip, but they came back. Now remember, MGM had a dip, but it was a stupid reason. Their stupid reason was they got hacked. So you hope it's a one-time thing, but the bottom line is they got hacked. They dealt with it. They moved forward. So it was a good reason to buy them, as they got cheaper. We figured, well, we didn't buy them. We should have bought them, but we didn't. But I do like them better than Las Vegas, who were down for reasons of problems in getting people back in the casinos, basically. Middleby, they make ovens. People cook. People, they make restaurant ovens. People cook. We didn't catch them when they were cheap either. And it doesn't mean we never, they doesn't kick them off the watch list. It just means that we have to keep watching them and see if we get another dip. MP was a runner-up for our trade of the year. We had into the long-term portfolio. mRNA was the other biotech that we bought, right? So we specifically bought mRNA instead of buying the ETF, and they're in the LTP. Mittal Steel, always been my favorite steel company. They were cheap for a bit. They were now they're back to 29 here. So we were too slow. We didn't catch them at 22. I wish we did. Nike, very iffy sort of results. Their earnings and their outlook was poor, but that's no reason not to buy them. We'll buy them if they get cheap again. If they come back down to 100, that's when we want to get them. NLY, also we added them with CIM. We like these guys. OLN, I like these guys also. They're a good company. They're a good price right here. Also a good butterfly portfolio candidate. Paramount, I keep saying they're going to get bought for 20, but nobody's buying them for 20 yet. But they did pop back up. So I mean, we've been buying and buying and buying, and We thought they'd get to 20. They actually went lower. We bought some more, and now we're pretty happy that they're over 15. We have adjusted our target, but I still would like to see them hit 20 and get bought out. Rocket Mortgage took off like crazy. We missed it. RH, I keep looking at RH and saying, I wish I would like to buy. I'd like to buy. So this time saying, okay, you know what? Let's do it. So for the long-term portfolio, we're adding this play on RH. I like them long-term. Here's a Rio, makes copper. Copper is through the roof right now. This would technically be a good one to jump on, but I'm pretty sure we have a copper play. I just can't remember for sure, but I want to double check that before we start buying. Rewalk, I like these guys. It's not like they're losing or anything like that. I like them a lot. We had them in a portfolio previously when they were super cheap, and then we got out. But now they're back at 72. I need to read more on them and see how they're doing. But it's a company that makes bionic legs, basically, not bionic, that helps somebody get out of a wheelchair and walk around. Like the legs take all the weight off. It's really nice, and it's a good company. It's really a matter of whether or not they get the Medicare approvals in country after country, so that these like $25,000 legs are approved by the by the insurance companies to let the people have mobility as opposed to having to have a wheelchair. The wheelchairs are, electric wheelchair they approve is $5,000-6,000, but this is much more money. So are they going to be able to bring these down in money? And then you have to go to court about quality of life issues and what is the insurance company's responsibility. If you could let somebody walk instead of a chair, then shouldn't you let someone walk? Doesn't that give them a much better quality of life? But this is insurance companies sue over stuff like that. They go to court. They're like, well, now we have to spend this much money whenever somebody is paralyzed instead of spending this much money. They're like, isn't a chair good enough? Those are the kind of ridiculous things we have to discuss in with this non-governmental healthcare. SoFi nicely over $10 again, just happened today. Very nice. And I said next time we go over $10, we can hold it, hopefully. And this is in almost every portfolio we have now because I absolutely loved these guys when they were cheap. Sony is Sony, and again, it's a good butterfly portfolio candidate once it gets back in the mid-range. Simon Property Group, mall operator, also in a butterfly portfolio kind of range. SunPower, been terrible, but I still like them long term. It's really weird. I mean, these guys have failed to execute. They've done a very poor job of taking advantage of what's happening, but still, they're a player in a business that's growing exponentially. They really have to do a worse job not to expand because it's almost like they can't help it where they are. So I still like them, even though they're doing a terrible job. I still like them because it's hard to fail in this business. And it's not just them. All the solar companies have been beaten up like this because they're just doing. It's hard to coordinate the parts coming from China, and we're in a trade war and the tariffs and the incentives and the bonuses and the different state programs. It's a nightmare, but at some point that we'll get it together. SWK, I said it's still like them to go lower. They didn't go lower. SYF, still absolutely still buyable. So that's something we'll consider as well. AT&T, we already have a heavy position in AT&T because it was so cheap. Target, also very cheap. Target, not as bad as Walmart, but also in the same plan. We did add Target, so now we're adding Target to the long-term portfolio. So see, that's 4 I found going through the list. TNDM was too cheap, and I certainly like them here. We didn't pick it up. We should have. Trox we added. They were a finalist in the stock of the year for next year. TRVG, I think is too cheap here. Actually, it was lower than this, and I thought it was too cheap. Still too cheap. Tupperware, I just think the brand alone is so stupidly cheap right now. It's like $200 million or less. I think it was less than 200 million because I think the brand is worth more than that. 117 million. I mean, that's nuts. Look, They make money. Not a lot, but they make 20 million bucks. They think they're going to make almost 40 million bucks next year, and you can buy the whole company for 117 million. Don't you think the name Tupperware is worth that much? Don't you? I mean, just brand recognition that they could figure something out rather than, to build themselves back up. But this isn't nothing. This is $40 million. And you can buy them for 117. They do have debt though, I think. Yeah, they got a lot of debt. That's the reason not to buy them. But I don't know. To me, it's like it just, what it is? Plastics are out, right? But their stuff is made out of plastic, but it's not like disposable plastic. It's reusable plastic, and it shouldn't be looked at the same way. So plastics are out. That's a problem. It's door-to-door sales are a tough thing to do, and that's been their bailiwick in most countries around the world. They still do door-to-door selling. I don't know. Well, anyway, there's a reason we don't actually have it in our portfolio, but I always think it's a shame when I think about it. I'm like, why aren't people buying this? Take Two, another REIT that we like. UHS, they're back high, so they're kind of off the list at the moment. And Vail was our trade of the year, so obviously we like them, even though they popped up a bit. And BTR is also another one that should be taken. They took off again. I'd like to get into this one. And WBA, Walgreens, is a stock that I always like it. Yodi doesn't like it. I think they're way undervalued. But now that I'm not happy that they're selling Boots, which is the UK part of the European part of their business. So I don't know. We're already in it, so it doesn't matter. I'm not happy about the fact they're selling off Boots. I'm not sure how we're going to get stuck in or what's going to happen. They may use it just to pay off debt. Who knows? And here's Whirlpool. Whirlpool, fantastic price down here. It ended up in a butterfly portfolio. Xerox has taken off already. Yeti, even though our target was 45 for next year, it's already over 53. It's still a great play. And that was the 2023 trade of the year, was Yeti. So there you go. We got through all those. So let's see if anybody has any questions. All right, nobody has any actual questions. So I encourage you guys, this is just our Wednesday post. So use it for a reference. These are the stocks that are left on our watch list. I will be adding some more to our watch list tomorrow. It is my intention, although I'm not sure how long it'll take. So I think I'm going to do it. I'm probably going to review the top trades. These four guys from the watch list will get added to the top trades. They're all worth picking up, and the market hasn't gone booming up, so we're going to be fine. Ooh, it made a little spike, but then it died down. So tomorrow, these four guys are going to get added in as top trades most likely. I'll do a top trade alert, and then we'll do a top trade review for the second half of whatever year this is, 2023. And we'll see how we did. I'm always worried when I do a top trade review because our percentages are so freaking amazing. It's like it's hard to PhilStock. PhilStockWorld.com. Top trade review. How did you know? Amazing. Here you go. So the top trades in the first half of 2023. So let me see what the format of this is. Let's see if I can. What is this? I don't even understand what that is. What? The stocks we had picked into the end of 22 were. Oh, I see. Okay, so that was these were the stocks we picked at the end of 2022, and they were all doing very, very well apparently, and they're still doing very, very well. Wow. TTE is the only poor performer. Where's TTE? And they took off. Okay. We were looking for the $55 calls on TTE, and we're miles over it. So there you go. So yeah, 100% winners. I said that was our worst performer. And I said, now on to our 2023 trade. So starting in January, we started the review. We reviewed 6 months worth of positions. SunPower, oh, and still a loser. So SunPower is a loser and still a loser. Oh, more SunPower. So SunPower is by far our worst. Here's a winner, winner. I'm just looking for like winner, loser, winner. Well, pretty much all winners. Wow, yeah, other than SunPower. Oh, no, here's Paramount. Oh, but it fixed itself. But not really, not for that trade. For that trade, that did not work out. So it did not fix itself, and I said it was so none of the reds fixed themselves, and we were 77.7% for the first half of the year. So I now have to hopefully outperform 77% for the second half of the year. Yeah, I should be able to do this by tomorrow. It's a lot of work. All right. Yeah. All right. So that's my plan for tomorrow, though. So we're going to add the new top trades, the ones that we just reviewed, that we just found in the watch list. We're going to add those to top trades, and we are going to update, or not update. We're going to start back on the last one was Paramount on June 27th. So whatever we did on July 1st forward, we will review that and see how our top trades did for the second half of the year. And that'll be fun. So there'll be, as always, there are trade ideas. Because when you see ones that didn't make a lot of money, still have a huge amount of upside potential, so on and so forth, those are just as good as new trades. Like this was only up 18%. You know, could have gone back in and done that. You know, they don't all perform incredibly well out of the gate, and that's a good chance to buy them. So, you know, we're going to do a review. These trades are 6 months or less old and probably have a good year or so to go, or 2 years to go. And we will hopefully find some more good stuff. So if you're looking for things to buy starting for 2024 to buy new positions and move forward, and especially if you're looking for the techniques that we use, because look at how we buy these things. Look at how we add them. You know, that's why I like the top trade reviews, because we're always going to be talking about how did we do the setup, how we did the setup, why we did the setup, and what we think, and how the setup is performing so far. And it does make you realize, like, you can do very, very well very quickly with these kind of trades. That one's up 144% in 6 weeks. That one is up 76% in a month. This one's up 26% in some short term of whatever it was. Yeah, like a month, that one's up 26%. So we have no shortage of ideas, even in a bullish market, even with all these things taking off. We manage to find something all the time. I mean, I do a top trade alert at least once a month, and we always find something that's worthwhile to trade with a 77% success rate. I mean, come on. It doesn't get much better than that. It's 77% success rate when you've got stocks that go up, 10%, 20% a month. Like Lennar here had only made $350, right? Because it was from June 20th and we were doing this review on July 13th. So it hadn't even been a month. What was the trade? The short 90 puts. This review was from July 13th. Here's the review. Where is it now? And it even got cheaper. So, I mean, you can take these stocks, make a little watch list note for yourself and say, well, if Lennar gets cheaper again, I want to get into it. And it did get cheaper. It took off. It came much lower than where we had it. Our spread was in $90 puts, stayed safe, right? The 100 calls, we had a very conservative spread. And the 120 calls, we took that spread in June around here when it was at 120. And we took the trade to play out where 120 was the top. We paid $5,500 for a $20,000 spread. It had 263% upside if we stay over 120 into the end of this year, into the end of 2024. That's it. We're not swinging for the fences, but that's more than a home run. making 263% in whatever time frame that is in 18 months. That's as good as it's going to get for you. It wasn't a big risk. This was a very conservative play, but I just said, I don't think these things are going any cheaper. And of course, you can always go back to the top trade. This is another thing. You can go back to the top trade. That's why I like these things for reviews. And you can say, well, what exactly was he thinking? So on June 20th, I said, good day to check, because it was a down day, I guess. I said, it's a good day to see who's not down. And you can see where the chart was then. It was at 120. And I said, given that list, I'd say DHI and Lennar are good candidates for the LTB. KBH is up too. They're all under 10 times. So let's talk about their debt. And I looked at the debt levels. And I said, oh, well, DHI is out, KBH is out, and Lennar is in. Oh, I'm sorry. So KBH was out. So I said Lennar and DHI, and I like them. And I decided I like Lennar a little bit better. That's all it is. It's not complicated. I saw reasons that the real estate sector should start recovering, and those reasons were, of course, the Fed was going to be supposedly not raising too many more rates, and that is what happened. That was great for them. They responded fantastically, and we played a super conservative play on them, so this was our trading range. That's what we expected for the trading range. We now blasted out of this thing. So I'm sure they're well ahead of goal right now, but there's no reason to throw these out, whatever the number is now, even if it's now $15,000, we're still going to make 33% if it just stays over 120. No reason to kill it. Anyway, so in the interest of preserving my voice, I'm going to end it here, and we will find plenty of things to do in the new year. Tomorrow, like I said, we're going to do the review of all the top trades and bring that up to date. But that's the key to doing these top trade reviews, or for you to read it, is don't just look at this and whatever. Look at what we said in the beginning. Why did we make that trade? What was our logic? What was our premise? How did it play out? Isn't that what this is all about, right? Learning why. Why are we doing these trades? What are we looking for? What do we find? And when we find it, how do we then craft a play around it to make the most, not to make the most money possible, to make the most realistic amount of money possible. Some of these we play very conservative, some of these we don't. But why? What's the reason? What's our thinking? And this is how we can improve our trading and do better. We always want to do a little bit better than we did last time, right? That's the goal. It's always to improve ourselves. So thanks everybody for coming. I very much appreciate it. Have a very, very happy new year. And I look forward to seeing you in 2024. All right, take care, everybody. Thanks.